This is Gen X Amplified episode number 8. And today we are going to ignite and chat about the power of podcasting and how you can find your own zone of genius. So, wait, huh? You want to say the line? All right, go ahead, Cameron.
So are you ready? Let's do it.
That was pretty good, man.
Thanks, man.
Where the overlap really is starting to lie between your skill sets and your expertise, and your passions, that's what's called the zone of genius, right in there. In your zone of genius, that's where you're going to best operate. That's where you're best going to be able to serve the world.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Amplified. This is your host, Adrian Porter. My guest today really doesn't need an introduction but I'm going to do it anyway because he's just that good. He is the founder and host of EntrepreneurOnFire, an award-winning podcast where he reveals the journey of today's most inspiring entrepreneurs, not once a week, not even 3 times a week, but 7 days a week. That's right, 365 days a year. Wow. His podcast alone generates over $250,000 a month in revenue. Now, with 1 million unique listens a month, EntrepreneurOnFire has inspired millions of people whom he calls actually Fire Nation to take control of their life and take the entrepreneurial leap. So Gen Xers, if you are prepared to ignite, let's welcome today's Gen Exceptional guest, John Lee Dumas. John, what is going on, man?
Adrian, I love how you said entrepreneur on fire. My man, I am prepared to ignite. Thanks for your kind words. Really means a lot, and appreciate you being part of Fire Nation and excited to chat with the Gen Xers today.
Awesome. You know, it's funny. I started to say, come on down. You're the next guest on Gen X Amplified. That's a little inside joke. But many of you in Fire Nation probably know what I'm talking about.
I know.
I know you know. So first, before I even get started, first of all, let me congratulate you, John, on reaching 1,000 episodes of EntrepreneurOnFire. Congratulations, man.
Thanks. I appreciate that. It was 1,000 days, 1,000 episodes, hundreds and hundreds of hours of interviews with awesome entrepreneurs. And it's a milestone that we really treasure. And I appreciate the kind words.
No, not a problem. It's well-deserved. And again, I'm really excited of chatting with you. And I met you. It was great. I met you along with your better half, Kate, in San Diego at Social Media Marketing World, which was a great conference. But yeah, I must tell you, John, for my audience, John presented, his presentation was probably one of the best presentations that I've seen at a conference. And what was striking to me, not only the content, because everybody knows John, everybody knows his story. And if you don't, he's going to go into it a little bit on the show, but at least everyone knows his platform. And when he presented, the thing that he did that struck out to me, and this is a testament to adding value and really being accessible, he literally walked the room and introduced himself to each person that was in attendance for his presentation before he even presented. And I must tell you, I thought that was very striking and powerful. And I give you kudos for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really remember so clearly being an attendee at these conferences and, just wanting to have a connection with the speakers because I admired them. And I definitely wanted to give a connection to the attendees, when I was now a speaker. And it does mean a lot to hear that people like yourself, Adrian, really do appreciate that. Awesome.
And again, John, you've been an inspiration to me, not only with launching my own podcast, but just building a brand, a business, and more importantly, just focus on starting a movement, which I consider this a Gen X Amplified movement, not just a podcast, and building a community with what you did with Fire Nation. So again, kudos, and I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you.
So let's dive right into it. If you can just kind of briefly talk about your journey and how it led you to launching EOF, Entrepreneur on Fire, and particularly, what was that transformational moment that sparked this entire movement of yours?
It definitely was a moment. So I look forward to leading up to that. But, in a nutshell, my journey is a pretty basic one. I mean, I spent my childhood, the first 18 years in the state of Maine, went to college on an Army ROTC scholarship. So I spent the next 4 years post-college as an Army officer, did a 13-month tour of duty in Iraq. And after my 4 years of active duty, I was 26 years old, no college debt because I had an Army scholarship and a decent savings. So I thought the world was my oyster. Unfortunately, I spent the next 6 years failing. From 26 to 32, was a law school dropout, quit my corporate finance job, struggled in commercial and residential real estate, and just couldn't find my swing. And I was really questioning why. I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? And then finally, I heard this quote by Albert Einstein, which flipped everything on its head for me. And it really was my transformational moment. And that quote was, try not to become a person of success, but rather become a person of value. Wow. And looking back over my prior 6 years, I said, man, ever since I left the Army, I've been trying to become a person of success, chasing fame, fortune, money, and it's gotten me nowhere but failure after failure after failure. Like, why? Like, why do I keep going after success when it's obviously not working? So I decided to take a leap of faith and I decided to become a person of value. But now it was like, well, how am I going to provide that value? And for me, that aha moment was quick to follow, that realization, because I'd been listening to podcasts for a number of years. But I had never had the idea to launch a podcast because I just wasn't thinking outside the box. I was like, oh, how can I launch my business? But I don't know what that business is going to be. And then finally, just thinking about becoming a person of value, I said to myself, man, I know that I complain to myself every single day about the fact that there isn't a 7-day-a-week podcast that's interviewing inspiring and successful entrepreneurs and telling their journey, because I want to listen to that. Like, I want to hear that story, that journey, so I can learn from that. There are some great podcasts out there, but they're doing it 1 day a week, maybe twice a month. That's not enough for me. I need more. So I decided to take a little quote from Gandhi and be the change you wish to see in the world. And for me, that turned out to be Entrepreneur on Fire, a 7-day-a-week podcast interviewing today's most inspiring entrepreneurs. And again, as we mentioned, here we are over 1,000 episodes later, over 19 million listens to date, with in fact over 1 million unique listens every single month and growing. And it's just been a fun journey from beginning to end. Wow,
you provided some powerful quotes there too. That's definitely worth repeating in your story. So taking a step back, so you mentioned from 26 to 32, around that time, you considered that a period of failing?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that was seasons of failure in different industries and different niches. Now, I don't consider it like a waste of life because I learned from those failures immensely, but there's no other way to term those than failures.
Got it. And I love how you phrased you were able to find your swing, or I should say you had difficult finding your swing. And then the quote, which I love, which is Albert Einstein, I think you said, try not to become a person of success, but become a person of value. Powerful. And then be the change you wish to see in the world. That was by Gandhi. I love that. So you saw an opportunity. You said you started listening to podcasts. Now, at the time, what year was this when you were really thinking about podcasts, or you noticed that there was an opportunity for you?
Really the end of 2011 and the beginning of 2012. Okay,
so you're in your car, you're driving, you notice that you're getting all this great value and inspirational content, but it's like you were thirsting for more, right?
Yeah, because I'd hear one and I'd be like, that was awesome. And then I would know that the next interview wasn't coming live for another week at the earliest.
Wow. And so you had this crazy idea, which turned out to be the great idea of launching. Now, when you were thinking about launching a 7-day-a-week, now, did you start off maybe, okay, well, Entrepreneur on Fire is going to be a 3-day-a-week podcast. And then did you ramp up to 7 days, or you out the gate?
Swinging from the fences.
Wow. Now, did you get any naysayers or people saying, okay, John, how are you able to pull this off? Or
not only did I get naysayers across the board, but the top podcasters in the industry were saying, John, I mean, you are not going to be able to pull this off. You're going to get burnt out. Your listeners are going to get burnt out. You should not do a 7-day-a-week show. Just be like everybody else and do a weekly podcast.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what made you just listen to yourself? Or as Gandhi mentioned, just, you know what, I'm just going to be the change and do a 7-day-a-week. I mean,
I knew that's what I wanted. That's what I needed. And I said, hey, if I don't stay true to that, then why am I doing this at all? Like, I'm here to create this 7-day-a-week podcast because it's something that I want personally. And that's so important to me. So I decided to step up into that, listen to my intuition, put my blinders on in that area. And by the way, I definitely listened and got a ton of great value from those same, great podcast mentors of mine, but I just wasn't willing to not do 7 days a week. That was my focus. And that's what I knew was going to give me my UVD. That's a unique value distinguisher. I needed it because I was not going to be a good podcaster from day one. And I wasn't. I had no broadcasting skills. I had no online experience. I needed something that was going to make me unique and something that was going to get me good quickly. And the only reason I was going to become a good podcaster was to actually podcast. So doing 30 a month was going to get me, it was going to improve my skills a lot faster than just 4.
Wow. And I love you. It's the first time I ever heard that UVD. I love that. I've heard of unique value proposition, but unique value distinguisher. That's awesome. That's really important.
Yeah, because actually the phrase that kind of inspired that is USP, the unique selling proposition.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't like that because I don't like the word selling and I don't like the word proposition. To me, they just don't fit in my world personally. But I love the words unique value distinguisher. And so that's a JLD original.
A JLD original. All right. I won't steal it. If I do, I'll make sure I give you credit.
Hey, I have nothing but abundance. Use away.
Oh, so awesome. So you launched EOF, Entrepreneur on Fire, 7 days a week. You're now past 1,000 episodes. How did your life change when you started to get some traction? People started to recognize the JLD name, the EOF name, the brand. How did your life change at that moment or those moments?
Life and business definitely changed. Okay. Now, when you're first starting a business, I call it like the seasons. We go through different seasons. My first season was having just to hack out an existence. Nobody knew me. I had not proven myself. I had no credibility, no authority. I had to have a season where I was just putting in the work of outbounds, of getting myself out there, going to conferences, and hiring mentors, joining masterminds, taking courses. It was my season of being outbound. Once the traction started, there started kind of being a little bit of both inbound and outbound. I was still having to go outbound to build the brands, but now there started to be some inbound. People heard about me. People were kind of talking about Entrepreneur on Fire and what it was. And that was really cool. And then the bigger that it built and the more traction that Entrepreneur on Fire got, the more inbound started happening. Whereas today, and this is kind of a crazy number, but we get over 50 inbound requests every single week of people wanting to be on Entrepreneur on Fire.
Whoa.
And what's crazy about that is that when I first started, one of my fears, but definitely one of the fears of the people that were the naysayers was, John, you are never going to be able to find enough entrepreneurs to interview. And the crazy thing is like, I now have 10 times the amount of entrepreneurs reaching out to me on a weekly basis than I could ever interview. And the number just keeps climbing. Wow.
Now that's really exciting. And hopefully, this leads to really a great topic that I want to talk about. And let's create some more of those entrepreneurs that will reach out to you and try to get on your show just from this, because this audience, my audience, and how I would describe my avatar, if you will, is, people that listen to this show. It's a target market audience for Gen Xers, but specifically, like, my avatar, I call him Sean, and he's 43 years old. He has a wife, 2 kids. He's currently employed at the mid-manager level on his job, but he's professionally and personally frustrated. He wants more out of his business life. He either wants to move up, but more importantly, he wants to start his own business. And he's thinking about providing more income for his family. He's worried about getting laid off, but he doesn't know how to start, especially with these new media tools. And there are a lot of resources out there to speak to other generations, whether millennials or boomers, but he's really not getting a lot of directive content speaking to him as a Gen Xer, that pain point. What would you say, John, to Sean? What advice would you give him on how to best define his personal story to build his brand in this new media marketplace and to become that entrepreneur that's going to be reaching out to be on EOF next week?
So basically, the key thing I would say here is take a step back, take a deep breath, and give yourself some space. So often we just put our nose down to the grindstone and we start working and we don't even really know what we're working on. We just know that we're busy, and being busy feels better than not being busy. So we're just busy. And the sad thing is we're spending a lot of time, energy, effort, and bandwidth on the wrong thing. So take a step back, dude, and just be like, okay, what am I passionate about? Like, let me list these things out. What am I skillful at? What have I gained experience-wise over the past number of years, over my lifetime? And really write those things out and, be consistent writing these things down for 5 days. This is a 5-day exercise. And then see by day 5 where the overlap really is starting to lie between your skill sets and your expertise. And your passions. You're going to see there starts to be some overlap there. That's what's called the zone of genius, right in there. In your zone of genius, that's where you're going to best operate. That's where you're best going to be able to serve the world and first start growing your audience. So within that zone of genius, find that niche and really dive down within that niche and say, hey, I know that this is my zone of genius, but how can I even go deeper within this zone to be the one person that is dominating this area? So, I don't want to hear that fishing is your thing. I want to hear that fishing in northwestern Canada for salmon in the fall is your niche. Because guess what? That's how you're going to get your first few raving fans, because everybody that does that is going to be like, you and only you are the person that I'm going to listen to, because nobody else is speaking directly to me. Now, guess what? That doesn't mean you're stuck down there. And that's where so many entrepreneurs fail, because they're scared to niche down because they think they're going to be stuck in a small niche. No, get your credibility, get your authority, get your first few raving fans, then broaden out with that credibility that you found. Maybe you're going to move next into a different fish, or maybe you're going to move into, Central and Western Canada. And then, before you know it, it's all of North America, but it takes steps. If you try to start wide, and I call that 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep, you're only making 1 inch impressions. You're not going to do anything to anyone. Instead, go 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep, and it will be the game changer. Wow,
I love that. And that's what you did. I mean, you started off really focusing, and you continue to focus on the podcast, on Fire Nation, Entrepreneur on Fire, 7 days a week. But recently, John, you've extended your brand into other platforms and mediums. Right now, I know that you have webinars, correct, on Fire, and some other things that you're doing.
You got it. Webinar on Fire, which is where we teach people how to create and present webinars that convert. And we just, are really constantly looking to create more value and resources, most of them completely free for our listeners. For instance, we have a completely free podcasting course at freepodcastcourse.com. We have a completely free course on how to create webinars at thewebinarcourse.com. These are completely free, just going back to the basics of us delivering valuable content consistently and without cost. And we love doing it.
Love it. Love it. Valuable content. That was free podcast course and freewebinarcourse.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's freepodcastcourse.com and then thewebinarcourse.com.
Awesome. Gen X Amplified community. Definitely go check those out. So as we wrap up here, John, you definitely dropped a lot of value bombs, but there's two questions that I always ask my guests at the end of the show. We're going to have a little fun and drop some more value. All right. You ready?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So, John, if there was a song that would play every time you entered a room or when you walk down the street that is perfect for your story and the John Lee Dumas brand, what song would that be? Basically, what would be your own personal theme song?
All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
I love it.
Listen, the baseline of this is this. Like, listen, you need to have confidence. You need to go into an area that you think that you don't think that you know you can deliver value and deliver value, because so many people get put back by the imposter syndrome. You know, they say, hey, who am I, to do a podcast, to interview somebody? And, we've all had those thoughts. Just be confident. Fortune favors the bold.
I love it. All I do is win, DJ Khalid. But we're going to have the John Lee Dumas version, probably a link to that if we can get that.
No matter what.
Love it. Love it. And lastly, if there was one specific tool or resource, John, whether it's a website, a mobile app, or even a book or anything that you recommend, particularly to that Gen X leader, that aspiring business owner or entrepreneur looking to build their business, build their brand, and to grow their brand, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd say podcastwebsites.com. It is an awesome place that's just all in one. It's everything you need for your website, for your podcast. We're talking hosting. We're talking 24/7 support. It's an integrated all-in-one headquarters for you. And the reality is this: we all need our headquarters, and this provides everything.
Wait, podcastwebsites.com?
You got it.
Awesome. Love that. Hope everyone goes there. And John, JLD, why don't you tell the Gen X Amplified community the best way they can find out more about you, what you're doing, and how they can further ignite?
AP, all the magic happens at EOFire.com. Come check us out for all of our free training and resources. We love entrepreneurs. We love Gen Xers. And I've had a blast talking to you today.
Likewise, it's just I'm looking at the thermostat on my wall. It is now at 150 degrees. It's on fire. Love the conversation, John. It's been a blast, man. Thank you so much for spending time with me and the Gen X Amplified community.
Thanks.
All right, take care. All right, well, there you have it. That was John Lee Dumas from the top-rated podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire, otherwise known as EOFire. First, I really want to thank JLD for being on the show and for hanging out with us. What John has done with the Entrepreneur on Fire brand has been nothing short of phenomenal. Wow, over 1,000 episodes? When did you hear that? 1,000 episodes. Wow, great kudos to him. All right, so I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Gen X Amplified. And for all of you Gen Xers, you boomers, millennials listening in, that you got a lot of great value from it. That's what we strive to do here on this podcast, from these conversations with all of these awesome leaders, is to inspire and empower you to build and amplify your own brand, to tell your story to the world in this new media marketplace so that you can maximize your impact in business and in life. So if you did enjoy this show, please share this episode on social media, and also feel free to check out the show notes for this episode over at genxamplified.com/008. You can also follow me on Twitter at Adrian Porter, and also definitely go over to my personal website at adrianporter.com, which is my online hub and blog where I provide additional content on branding, marketing, leadership, and many of the things that we discuss here on this show. So that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, as I always say, for listening in on your mobile device, your computer, your tablet, while you're driving in your car, in your home, while you're washing the dishes, if you're at the gym, listening while you're toning up that that six-pack. That's what's so great about podcasts, is that you can listen to great content. I mean, educational, inspirational, entertaining, all types of content, wherever, whenever you want. You know, there's not another medium like that. So that's why I love podcasts. So again, I appreciate you. And until next time, as always, all the best to your success. Take care.